حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
الحمد لله إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في القرآن المجيد هل يستوي الذين يعلمون والذين لا يعلمون إنما يتذكر أولو الألباب. صدق الله العظيم. أما بعد. My respected brothers and sisters, we begin by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one and only creator, our creator and our sustainer and our cause of existence in this universe. We praise Him, we seek His help in each and every single thing that we do. And we ask for His forgiveness in every single misstep and mistaken step that we make along the path of life. And we bear witness as Muslims, we declare openly and without any hesitation that there is no one worthy of any worship except Allah, the one true God. And that Muhammad ibn Abdullah is the last and final messenger and prophet that has been sent for our guidance. And we declare that and we accept that in our hearts, and we are not afraid to say that in the open. As to what follows, the verse that I recited in front of you, هَلْ يَسْتَوِي الَّذِينَ يَعْلَمُونَ وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, could it possibly be that the people who have knowledge are equal to the people who do not have any knowledge? This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Qur'an. Could it be possible that people who have knowledge be equivalent and comparable with those people who have no knowledge? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّمَا يَتَذَكَّرُ أُولُو الْأَلْبَابِ. The only people who are going to take a warning, the only people who are going to benefit from the verses in the Qur'an and the verse that we just talked about right now are those people who have understanding. Those people who have some level of understanding will be able to benefit from this verse and will be able to benefit from the rest of the Qur'an. Allah has revealed His book, His revelation to us. Now how are we going to benefit from that revelation? By kissing it, by respecting it and putting it on the highest shelf, by covering it and decorating it in gold. These are all nice manifestations of respect. But how are we going to benefit from it? The only way Allah is telling us in the Qur'an itself is that if you have some understanding, then you would have understood that this verse means that people of knowledge cannot possibly be equal to the people who have no knowledge, and the people who are going to benefit from this book are those who have understanding, meaning the ones who have knowledge as well. So we're talking today about knowledge, about ilm. And when we talk about knowledge, we find two types of people. We find two different categories of people. The first category of people are those who feel that they know enough about Islam. They feel when you ask them, how comfortable are you in your knowledge about Islam, about the deen? They'll tell you, we're pretty comfortable. We feel we know quite a bit. We may not be the most knowledgeable people, but alhamdulillah, we know a sufficient amount. And it's interesting because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned in the Qur'an a verse about people who take certain things from the Qur'an of what they want, and they know a few verses here and there of their scripture, and then they feel sufficient and happy with that amount of knowledge. And who is Allah referring to in the Qur'an? He's referring to Bani Israel, the children of Israel, formerly the Jewish nation in the past. Now, when we notice that when we Muslims, we talk about, when we read these verses of the Qur'an, what do we find? When we see them talking about Bani Israel, we start thinking immediately, look at Israel, look at the war crimes that they're doing, look at the genocide that they're committing against the Palestinians. See, it's talking about them. Now, that may apply to an extent, but Allah is revealing these verses not so that you can go and put the magnifying glass on somebody else. Allah is revealing these verses for you and I, as Muslims, or at least as people who profess to be Muslims. He's revealing these verses for us. So when He's criticizing a group of people, it's not simply to go and look at that group of people and point the finger. Rather, it's for us to go and point the finger back and say, do we fit the description of the people who are being described in these verses? And in one of the verses, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes them. He says, وَمِنْهُمْ أُمِّيُّونَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ الْكِتَابَ إِلَّا أَمَانِي. He said, and among them, there's a group of people, they do not know anything about the book. لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. They do not know anything about the book, about their own scripture, إِلَّا أَمَانِي. Except their own vain desires. Except the things that they want to know, the things that they want to hear. And they don't know anything else besides that. That is the extent and the limit of their knowledge. And what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say about them? وَإِنْهُمْ إِلَّا يَظُنُّونَ. They're only assuming. They're only in suspicion. They're only in conjecture. Now if you look at the Muslim community, we have to be very honest with ourselves. And many times you will find somebody, and you say, what verses of the Qur'an do you know? You find that the verses of the Qur'an that they know are the verses that they want to know. So you ask some people, can you quote a single verse in the Qur'an for me? Just by meaning. Yes. He's having a problem with his children. He says, I can tell you that it says in the Qur'an, my children are not allowed to say uff to me even. That's the only verse that they know, the only verse that they can possibly quote. Do you know the verses about riba? About taking interest and giving interest? Do you know the verses about not abusing your spouse? Do you know the verses about taking care of your family? Those verses are not really that important. There are some Muslims who say the only extent of knowledge that they have is we know a hadith that the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever has even a little bit of iman in their heart will eventually be taken out of the fire and will go to paradise. Alhamdulillah. And then they're happy at that. We know the verses Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. After Bismillah, Allah is merciful and compassionate. Therefore we can sit back and we can be kind of comfortable in what we're doing. And exactly, if you analyze it, if you just think about it, exactly the same thing that was being told about Bani Israel in this verse. وَمِنْهُمْ أُمِّيُّونَ. People who don't really know the book, they're not lettered, they're not educated. وَمِنْهُمْ أُمِّيُّونَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ الْكِتَابِ. They do not know anything about the book. إِلَّا أَمَانِي. Except their own desires, what they want to know. The certain verses that they like and they want to use against somebody else, or they want to use it in a conversation, or they want to use it to go and sell their merchandise, or they want to go use it to do something else. And what benefit do they get out of that? So there are those people who feel that they know enough. And in actuality, they're only deceiving themselves. Because if you think that the extent of your Islamic knowledge, of what you're supposed to know as a Muslim, is going to be limited to a 30-minute khutbah once a week, and you say, that is sufficient, I don't need to know more than that. Analyze. Would it be sufficient if you said, you know what, my children, you tell your children, you only need to go to school just 30 minutes a week. That's more than enough. You don't need to go and Forget kindergarten, man. There's too many hours involved in kindergarten. You know, elementary school and middle school, they want you to do that many hours. You don't need that many hours. 30 minutes is sufficient. That's my amount of Islamic knowledge. You would never accept that. You would never accept that. And if you talk about people, let's say someone has read 20 pages of the Qur'an. Imagine you've read 20 pages of the Qur'an, and somebody asks you, do you feel that you know enough? So I think I know pretty much enough. You're not in a state to judge, to even make that judgment, because you've never read the other 580 pages. So how could you say that you know enough? So we need to put ourselves in perspective. And this is the first category of people. People who feel that they know enough about Islam, that they know enough to be a Muslim, and they never want to increase in knowledge. And what I'm saying is, that feeling that you have is not grounded. It is not grounded in any type of knowledge or understanding. So please try to adjust that. But that's the first type of people. And inshallah, we're not among those type of people. Or inshallah, we can make a change today and not put ourselves in that category. And then there's a second category. The second category of people are those who want to learn more about Islam. Every time you ask them, say, do you think you feel you know enough? No, brother, sister, you know, I don't know. May Allah increase me in knowledge. May Allah give me a deeper understanding of Islam. May Allah give me more practice. May Allah give me the ability to pray more. This is a sign of humility, alhamdulillah. People who want to know more. But within the second category, there's a subdivision. There's two categories within the second category. So when somebody says, I want to know more, the first category of people who want, meaning they want in a sense that say, I would like to have it, but they're not willing to put the effort or the time in to go and do it. They're not willing to remember to go and do something. So they'll consistently forget. You say, well, there's a class happening over here. There's going to be a seminar taking place over there. You know, I'm really busy. I have to go to the mall and shopping, and I have to go to the beach, and I have to enjoy it. Summer right now, it's going to be really busy for me. I have a lot of things to do. So people who want, but will make excuses to themselves and to others, particularly to themselves, and not actually move forward with that. And if you look at it, when it comes to business, when it comes to your job, if your employer, if your boss came, and you know what the economy is today in California, over 10% unemployment. If your boss came to you and said, look, there's a very important seminar that you need to attend. You need to attend this seminar if you want to keep your job. And we're not going to pay for this seminar either. We're not going to even cover travel expenses. And it's going to be outside of your working hours. We're not going to pay you for anything. How many of you would go and take that seminar? If it took a whole weekend, you would definitely do it. The vast majority of people would do it. Why? Because the priority, they understand that I need this job. I need to keep this job in this economy. I don't want to lose it. I'm willing to go and learn something new. Say, well, you're 50 years old. Didn't you say that you're 50 now? You're too old to be learning now? You haven't learned in 30 years? Now all of a sudden your boss wants you to go to a seminar. And you see people who are in their 60s attending these seminars with presentations and going and learning and taking a test. 50, 60, the same people who said, I'm too old to learn, now I'll let my kids do it. So it depends on where your priorities are. You may say you want to, and you may have that wanting in the back of your mind, but you have to do more than just want. You have to have a craving, you have to have a desire, you have to have a motivation, you have to be willing to put some time aside and move forward. That's the first category within the second category. The second category are those people who want and those people who fit the description. Meaning they take the time out. Meaning they're willing to register for the classes. Meaning they're willing to drive and commute, come to the masjid. They're willing to go online. They're willing to go and find some videos to listen to and watch and learn from. These people fit the description. And when they fit the description, what does the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, what did he say about them? In an authentic hadith narrated by Imam Dawood, graded as authentic. He said, مَنْ سَلَكَ طَرِيقًا يَطْلُبُ فِيهِ عِلْمًا. Whoever traverses a path, whoever goes down and searches for knowledge, what will Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do? سَلَكَ اللَّهُ بِهِ طَرِيقًا مِنْ طُرُقِ الْجَنَّةِ. That Allah will take him down the path among one of the pathways to paradise. Now look at the key here. مَنْ سَلَكَ طَرِيقًا. Whoever went down the path. Now how do you go down a path? You actually have to physically put some effort in it. You have to start walking. You have to move your body. You have to get in your car. You have to double click your mouse on some link or something like that. There has to be some effort involved. And if you do it for seeking knowledge, and here we're talking about the knowledge of Islam, Islamic knowledge about your deen, how you're supposed to live your life, how Allah wants you to live your life. And what will Allah do if you can do this? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will lead you down a path to paradise. That path of knowledge will be the path to paradise. This is amazing. And every single person should make the intention from today that we will come and try and fit ourselves in this category. It doesn't mean you need to become a scholar. It doesn't mean you need to memorize all the books of hadith. It doesn't mean you need to memorize the Qur'an. But we understand that we do need to know more about Islam. We need to learn more about this way of life, about our deen. In what aspects? The question may arise, what are we missing? You know, I know La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. I know that Allah is one, no one else should be worshipped. And I know that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. I come to Friday prayer every week. What more could there possibly be to learn? So let us talk about some of the categories that we need to have a deeper understanding. And this is by no means exhaustive. This is simply just a little Islam in a nutshell about some things that we may assume that we know, and in reality we may not know as much as we think we know. Or our children may not know as much as we think that they are supposed to know. So which knowledge? The first knowledge obviously is going to be the knowledge of the belief in the principles of Islam. The knowledge about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, about the books, about the prophets, about the angels. To such an extent that you will be able to maintain the self-confidence of Islam in yourself. So you may not have a major issue. Maybe when you go to work and you have a missionary there talking to you and trying to distribute some pamphlets to you now, all of a sudden you think, whoa, I've never experienced this in my life. I simply know from my parents that Allah is one, and now someone's going to give me some literature over here and telling me something else. Telling me that Allah is three, or telling me that there is no Allah, Allah doesn't exist. You need to be at the level where you're going to be challenged. So if you're at work, there's not that many challenges going to be taking place, your knowledge can be limited. If you're sending your children, or if you are one of the people who are stepping into a secular university, which almost all of them are, including most of the Christian ones as well, you are putting yourself in an environment where your Islam, your beliefs are going to be challenged. They're going to be challenged to an extent that when you take a class on philosophy, you take a class in sociology, you take a class in anthropology, you are getting a secular atheistic worldview imparted upon you. And depending on the charisma of your professor, and depending on how solid you are in your own foundation, you will be challenged. Which means that you need to rise up to the challenge. You need to be prepared to be able to not only defend, but be confident and be proud of the Islamic principles of belief, which are the foundation, is the bedrock of your entire life, of your entire Muslim identity, of you being a Muslim. So the knowledge has to be taken to another level based upon what circumstances you're going to be immersed in. These are the principles of Islamic belief. Number two is the fact that Islam is a complete way of life. So we need to learn some more things. We need to learn the questions that would commonly arise depending on the way we live our life. First of all, when it comes to worship, we have prayer, we have zakat, we have all of these things. If you're not going for Hajj, or if you've already gone before and you're not able to go right now, you don't need to learn the rulings of Hajj. It's not a requirement for you. But there are other things which are a requirement for you. The month of Ramadan is coming up, it's around the corner. How many Muslims know how to pay their zakat? How many Muslims know what to do when they have a 401k or an IRA account, retirement account? How many Muslims know what to do when it comes to the stock market? How many Muslims call up the Sheikh Muhammad, what should I do? This is happening and fasting is taking place, what should I do now? Happens all the time, every Ramadan, and it's the same questions, sometimes even from the same people. Meaning that we weren't prepared. It's good to ask, alhamdulillah, at least you asked, but it means we weren't fully prepared. When it comes to prayer, what do we do here, what do we do there? We need to increase in our knowledge and in our understanding of what to do. There are some people who have taken it to another level. They've taken it to the level that it's been 40 years, 50 years they've been praying as a Muslim. And you ask them, what is the meaning of Al-Fatiha? Just in a nutshell, explain to me what does Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen mean, and they can't even tell you. 40 years, 50 years, and they cannot tell you. What is happening? How can this be? How can this be the attitude of a Muslim? We need to take it to another level. We need to increase in knowledge, and the first step is to understand our own ignorance and realize that, you know what, this needs to be a priority in our lives. This needs to be something very important. There are children who are coming to me, mashallah, practicing Muslim families. But when their children come, walk in the bathroom, they don't even know how to purify themselves. They don't even know how to make wudu. This is not an exception to the rule, I'm telling you. As a Sunday school teacher, as a youth counselor, as all of these things, they don't know the first thing. How could a parent allow their kids not to even know the bare basic minimum of how to even purify themselves or even how to pray? How could this be? And don't you think you're going to be held accountable? Of course you will. Because there's a status, there's a responsibility there. So when it comes to these things, we need to understand. We need to have a good understanding of how we perform our worship. This is category number one, which the vast majority of people talk about all the time. We talk about this all the time. Other categories, which we don't get into sometimes, because it seems like it's a higher level or something like that, but it's very important. A businessman, or an employee, anyone who's involved in business or in some type of commerce, or who has a job, they need to know what type of transactions are permissible for them, and what type of transactions are not permissible for them. If you live in this community, if you live in this country, you need to understand that economic transactions are very sophisticated. They're very complex. And sometimes you don't even know what you're getting into. So a person who's a student, just graduated, got a job. Now, alhamdulillah, he's making some money. So he decides, you know what, I'm going to go and I'm going to invest in the stock market. I'm going to go and I'm going to invest over here. What type of investment are you making? You don't know the first thing about investing. So you go and open a stock market account. You open a margin trading account. You don't realize you perform a short sale. You don't realize that interest is being accrued on that sale. You sold something that you didn't even own, which is impermissible in Islam, but you didn't know. You thought it's a quick way of making money because you didn't learn. So people who are involved in these things need to know, and they need to understand. What is riba? What is interest? What does it do to society? Why should you avoid it, and to what level are you supposed to avoid it? What things are you not allowed to sell in your business? What things are you not allowed to serve? All of these things require a level of knowledge. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, are the people of knowledge, can they possibly be equal to the people who don't know? They can't, because at least the people who know have some opportunity to avoid it. Umar ibn al-Khattab, radiyallahu anhu, may Allah be pleased with him, the second Khalifa of Islam, he used to take this so seriously. When he was the Khalifa, the leader of the Muslim Ummah at that time, he used to walk around the market. There used to be market there, like a swap meet kind of thing. He used to walk around the market with a stick, and he would test every single businessman. Do you know the rules on this? Do you know how much rice you're allowed to sell over here? What kind of market are you selling here? If they were not able to answer the question, he would give them the stick. Now I'm not saying go and do that, okay? But the point is, look how seriously he took it. This is not a joke. And this is why you see the Muslim Ummah flourishing at that time. Because you have regulation, you have discipline, you have a level of seriousness when it comes to fulfilling the obligations and the requirements of Islam. Economics. If you're involved in it, you need to know. Your kids don't need to know at this point in time, but you need to know. Gender relations. When it comes to gender relations, we need to increase in our knowledge. How many people do not know how to interact with the opposite gender? How many students are going to MSAs and going to university, they don't know how to speak with the opposite gender? They may go to an extent where they're excessively flirting. They may go to an extent where they don't even realize that they're flirting. They may be talking about things and not understand what's happening, and they get into a relationship. They fall in love because they didn't follow the rules of Islam. There are people who are going and reading old translations of the Qur'an, which the sister says, well, I don't wear hijab because it's not in the Qur'an. So what do you mean it's not in the Qur'an? Well, I read a translation of the Qur'an that says you're supposed to cover your chest. Meaning what? Meaning that the women of Mecca at that time, they had their chest bare open. Well, I don't know, maybe it says chest cover. But what do you find? The reality is, it's talking about your khimar, your head cover, going down and covering your chest at the same time. So what we need to do is we need to have a deeper understanding of the Qur'an. We need to have people understand what the reality of what Islam is teaching. So then when they understand how to interact with genders, when we understand what to do and what to take, how to follow these rules, we'll have a correct knowledge so that we can actually move forward as an ummah, move forward as individuals to be able to follow the message and the principles of Islam. That's when it comes to gender relations. Let's talk about divorce and marriage. Marriage and divorce. How many times has the Muslim ummah been criticized that it's not giving rights to females? And subhanallah, you can't imagine what rights and what respect and what privilege and what dignity Islam gives you. But even the women, they don't know, because they haven't learned. Even the women, they don't know. They don't know their rights. So people come to me all the time as a counselor, say, my husband is mistreating me this way, and he's telling me that if you do this, then this is what's going to happen. And this is in Islam. الرِّجَالُ قَوَّامُونَ عَلَى النِّسَاءِ بِمَا فَضَّلَ اللَّهُ بَعْضَهُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ. That men are the superiors over women. That's not what it means. Go read the translation again. It means that you're responsible for the women. You have a degree of responsibility there. But people misuse it. People abuse it. Why? Because they don't know. Or, إِلَّا أَمَانِي. Because their own desires incline them to interpret the verses that way. If they misuse it, then what's going to happen? The sisters themselves don't know about Islam. The sisters themselves come to me and say, I'm stuck, my husband is abusing me, and of course there's nothing I can do, so I should just be quiet and just sit there. I can't go to anyone, I can't do anything. Do you know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Qur'an? Do you know the rights? Do you know what khula is? Do you know that you have a privilege, that if you're being abused, you have an opportunity to actually, do something about it? Yes, you do. But most women, they don't know, because what they know is the culture that they were raised in. And you have Islam and you have culture here. And if you mix the two together and you don't have a correct sound Islamic background, then what's going to happen? You don't know the difference between culture and between this. So you're watching your Bollywood, soap operas, and you're watching, your Hollywood sitcoms, and you think that that manifestation is going to be the way life is, but it's not. It's not. So we need to increase in our knowledge. We need to increase in our understanding. We need to increase in our understanding of what a family is. How inheritance is being divided. There are people trying, there are about 11 states now, trying to ban Sharia. The Sharia law, what they call Sharia law. Meaning the way that Muslims practice their life. 11 states are lining up trying to ban it. Oklahoma passed the ban. They passed it. They said it's banned. Alhamdulillah, Supreme Court stepped in and said this is unconstitutional. They're just waiting to ban it. And we as Muslims, we don't even care to distribute our inheritance that way. Because maybe the wife says, no, under American law, I get everything. So I want all of it. And someone else says, hey, no, I want a share of it. And the other guy says, no, I don't like this son. And this son was good, went to medical school. This son was bad. He just played around games. So I'm going to give him all the money. And I'm going to give him nothing. You're not allowed to do that in Islam. If you know the rules, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set certain portions and proportions that have to be fixed. But how many of us know? How many of us even knew that there are verses in the Qur'an specifying your share, and if you don't give the right share, you will be responsible in front of Allah on the Day of Judgment? How many people even knew that bare fact, but don't expect to get all of this? From the khutbah every week in 30 minutes, it cannot be covered. Therefore, we need to have an understanding. Now, what is holding us back? I will conclude with this. What is holding us back from increasing in knowledge? There are three main factors. Three main factors that are holding us back, as individuals and as a community. Number one is arrogance. Number one is arrogance. When you hear something, you hear a lecture, you hear a verse of the Qur'an, someone's telling you a hadith, and what do you say? I heard that one before. So what if you heard that one before? No, I already know that, I don't need to hear it again. What do you mean you don't need to hear it again? If you hear it again, maybe you'll get something you didn't hear the first time. Maybe you didn't hear it correctly the first time. Imam al-Shafi'i, one of the great scholars of Islam, he made a verse of poetry to show the way that he approaches knowledge. He said, كُلُّ مَزْدَدْتُ عِلْمًا إِزْدَدْتُ عِلْمًا بِجَهْلِ. Every time I increased in knowledge, I increased in the knowledge of my ignorance. Meaning what? It's kind of deep, you have to think about it. Every time I learned something more and more and more, I realized that how much little I knew. I used to think I knew this much, and then when I learned a little bit more, I'm like, wow, I didn't know all of that. I just got introduced to a new science. I didn't even know the science existed. Now I know that I know almost nothing. Every time I increased in knowledge, I increased in the knowledge and understanding of how much ignorance I really have. This is the way to humble yourself. Number one issue is arrogance. Number two is materialism. Materialism that has manifested itself in our society. We have taken all forms of knowledge and equated them with what you can get out of them. How much money it's going to earn you. How many people go to college for critical thinking abilities? How many people go to university and go and earn their PhDs and their masters and their bachelors because it's good, knowledge is power, you can understand things, you'll have a better understanding of life. That's kind of in the back there. But if that degree is not going to make you more money, if that degree happened to make you less money than your high school degree, how many people do you think would be pursuing it? So what's happened is we've equated knowledge with its buying power, with its ability to get you a good salary. And there's some relevancy to that, but what happened is that's degraded knowledge in and of itself. That's degraded all forms of knowledge, and we think you only do it depending on how much money you can get. So those children who are there, you're probably wondering, say, Mommy, Daddy, why do I have to become a doctor? Well, because you're going to be helping people. You know, many Muslims in the community, they also tell their kids, doctor, engineer, lawyer, this is pretty much all you can be. Well, why do I have to do this? Well, you're going to be helping so many sick people. Is that the real reason? Be very honest inside. Is that the real reason why you're doing it? What if you go into humanitarian work? No, it's not as good. What if the status of a doctor was the status of a janitor? What if the pay of a doctor was the pay of a guy who works at McDonald's? Would you still be saying, you better be in medical school, otherwise you're not really my son, you're not really my daughter? What is the real intention behind it? Ask yourself, has it connected itself with materialism? And lastly, what we need is encouragement. We need encouragement. When people come and they say, Mom, Dad, I would like to go and attend this seminar that's taking place. I would like to go and attend this thing. Well, it's, pretty costly and I'm not sure we have time. But Mom, you drive a Mercedes and Dad drives a BMW. Yeah, still, I'm not sure if we can afford it. We need encouragement. We need people to say, get out there and go study. And let's look at one of the examples of one of the great scholars in the past. The scholar Ali ibn Asim. He narrated his story. He said, when I was growing up, my parents came to me, my father came to me, and he told me, he gave me 100 dirhams. That's like $100,000. He gave me 100,000 dirhams. It's like $100,000. And he said, take this money and go. And I don't want to see your face until you replace this 100,000 dirhams with 100,000 hadith. Because that was what the special knowledge was at that time. Go and replace this with that. And he says, until then, I don't know you and you don't know me. Go and study. That's the kind of motivation that we need. That's the kind of push and encouragement that we need to give to the younger generation and to everyone. And without that, we're not going to be able to move forward as ummah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us and guide us at all times. Astaghfirullah li wa lakum wa lisa'ilil muslimin. Fastaghfiruhu innahu huwal ghafurur rahim. Alhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for every single thing that we need in life. We can only have so much motivation within our own selves. We can only desire and crave things to an extent. But we need the tawfiq, we need the success and the agreement from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from our Creator. So let us ask Him, Oh Allah, increase us in knowledge. Oh Allah, increase us in understanding. Oh Allah, let us put aside our excuses and set our priorities according to that which you would be pleased with. Oh Allah, all those people who are suffering and who are ill, oh Allah, cure them and forgive them for their sins. Oh Allah, those people who have passed away, oh Allah, forgive them for their sins and enter them into paradise. Oh Allah, remove the tyrants and the oppressors from the world. Oh Allah, help those prisoners of war and help those people who are unjustly being held in detainment. O Allah, make it easy for them and their families and release them. O Allah, help the Muslim lands and the Muslim countries, and help all the Muslims and all the people who are following your path throughout the world. O Allah, make it easy for them. O Allah, make it easy for them to establish justice. O Allah, help us and guide us at all times and in all things we do. And whoever amongst us you cause to remain alive, let us remain alive on the path of Islam. And whoever amongst us you cause to pass away, let us die in a state of true iman. Ameen. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wassalamun ala al-mursaleen. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wa aqimus salam.